This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people.
The United States is conducting an operation to kill Osama bin Laden.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Discerning Eye News. Our stories tonight are the following. Did you know there's a secret power that the citizens of the United States have had for quite some time? And this secret power is not being used. Another story, which many will find interesting, since many Western countries have deployed the opposite of what China has now deemed a national security threat. But first, has the spirit of secession taken over parts of America? So we can all be on the same page. What does secession mean? Via Wikipedia. In the context of the United States, secession primarily refers to the voluntary withdrawal of one or more states from the union that constitutes the United States, but may loosely refer to leaving a state or territory to form a separate territory or new state, or to the severing of an area from a city or county within a state. Threats and aspirations to secede from the United States or arguments justifying secession have been a feature of the country's politics almost since its birth. Some have argued for secession as a constitutional right, and others as from a natural right of revolution. In Texas v. White 1869, the Supreme Court ruled unilateral secession unconstitutional, while commenting that revolution or consent of the states could lead to a successful secession. In Northern California, a small city of a bit over 15,000 people by the name of Oroville has done just that. The city of Oroville is getting national attention for announcing they will not follow controversial orders issued by the governor or president. The fight stems from a number of federal and state pandemic protection mandates. Oroville city leaders are launching a resolution revolution. In a 6-1 vote, the city council declared Oroville a constitutional republic city. This mandate is not saying we are against laws or for anarchy. Anarchy only means without government rule. Okay? I'm saying that. But again, Scott Thompson, the Oroville vice mayor, stated this mandate is not saying we are against laws or for anarchy. Thompson said it is the city's effort to send a strong message to state and federal leaders. I think it is time for us to draw a line in the sand, he said. Enough is enough. The resolution resolves to not enforce any executive orders issued by the state of California or by the United States federal government that are overreaching or clearly violate our constitutional protected rights. The move comes amid the controversy over closing businesses during the pandemic, along with mask and vaccine mandates. We are not talking about one mandate that's been pushed on us recently, Thompson said. It is a barrage of mandates.
I just want to echo the sentiments of the mom who spoke and said, where does it stop? Just for clarification, this mandate is not saying we're against laws or for anarchy. It's just basically drawing a line. It's not necessarily against one specific mandate. We're not talking about one mandate that's been pushed on us recently. It's a barrage of mandates. And I think for every society, you have to have laws. But for each law that comes, that does mean a forfeit of some sense of freedom. And America itself, the very thread, the very fabric of America right now, I believe is at question. We're at a crossroads of, what we're going to be, what the future of America is going to be like. I think if our founding fathers were even to see the amount of laws and oppression that we put on ourselves right now, they'd be blushed to their sacrifice that they had for us to be free. I think it's time for us to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. I'm not, this item tonight is not proposing anything that's anti-American. As already stated, we already are a constitutional republic. So it's just basically a statement for ourselves and for the higher ups. I'd love to see it go across California, you know, for Californians to push back and say, I've heard other representatives say that, you know, our governor currently believes it's one size fits all. And it does not appear to me that he listens to our constituents. You know, when we had the Paradise Fire, he didn't visit us. He came to Paradise and took a photo up, you know, up there and pushed on some other, you know, global warming. It's like, do you even care about what the community? So anyway, it's not a one size fits all. And yes, are there dangers of what's going on right now? Absolutely. Is there a risk of infection and death? Absolutely. Is there always a reason for another law? Sure. But does that mean necessarily there always should be another law added, or should we protect some sanctity of freedom that we have as citizens? And so,
As the
it's a reason
escalating
for
crisis over the constitutional
presenting
republic
this item
city
tonight,
of
and so I
Oroville
hope the
enters its
council
second
will
month,
also support it.
U.S. military leaders have refused to rule out an invasion, yes, an invasion of U.S. troops on U.S. soil against the city of Oroville, which is a city within California, okay, which is a U.S. state. Here is the resolution numbered 9001, declaring the city of Oroville to be a constitutional republic city. This starts on page 230. This was voted on November 2nd, 2021. It reads as follows. Whereas the Constitution of the United States protects our rights endowed by our Creator, as well as guarantees liberties to American citizens, including the establishment of justice, the promotion of the general welfare, and securing the blessings of liberty. And whereas the Constitution espouses many principles upon which the United States is founded, namely the separation of powers, individual rights, and the rule of law. And whereas the Constitution of the state of California provides that all people are by nature free and independent and have inalienable rights, including enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and pursuing and obtaining safety, happiness, and privacy. And whereas John Adams, the second president of the United States, wrote, the very definition of a republic is an empire of laws and not of men. That, as a republic, is the best of governments, so that the particular arrangement of the powers of society, or in other words, that form of government which is best contrived to secure an impartial and exact execution of the laws, is the best of republics. And whereas, as mayor of the city of San Francisco, Gavin Newsom embraced local control and applauded the city of San Francisco's city of refuge designation by refusing to follow or enforce federal laws regarding certain subjects which the city believed to be overreaching and oppressive to the residents of the city of San Francisco. And whereas, as governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom has abandoned the very principles he espoused as a mayor and a locally elected official in exchange for unbridled power and unchecked authority over the daily affairs of the citizens of the state of California. And whereas during the coronavirus pandemic, Governor Gavin Newsom has issued a record number of executive orders, despite the fact that the declaration of emergency should have been rescinded many months ago. And whereas at least one court of competent jurisdiction has ruled that the governor has exceeded his authority in issuing the executive orders. And whereas the members of the City Council of the City of Oroville believe in the separation of powers, individual rights, and the rule of law, as outlined in the United States Constitution, including the freedom for local government to have local control over issues related to the citizens who reside within the city's jurisdictional boundaries. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Oroville City Council that the city of Oroville is declared to be a constitutional republic city. Be it further resolved by the Oroville City Council that any executive orders issued by the state of California or by the United States federal government that are overreaching or clearly violate our constitutional protected rights will not be enforced by the city of Oroville against its citizens. This was passed and adopted, as I mentioned previously, by the Oroville City Council at a regular meeting held on November 2nd, 2021. So, on to our next story. And did you know there is a secret power that the citizens of the United States have and have had for quite some time? And this secret power is not being used. What is the secret power? Well, it is called jury nullification. I personally find it a bit odd with many groups running around calling themselves masters of law this and masters of constitutional issues that. And the fact many of these groups, these entities, have been around for many decades, especially in the so-called, air quotes, black community, that none have pushed for the use of this secret power, which, as you will discover here in a moment, a question has to be asked. What is really their purpose? They claim their purpose is, let's say, the freedom of this group or the freedom of this ethnicity or the freedom of this gender or whatever, but there are actually routes to that, but these groups never actually take those routes. Don't you find that a bit odd? I find it a bit odd. Well, first, what is jury nullification? Via Cornell Legal Information Institute, a jury's knowing and deliberate rejection of the evidence or refusal to apply the law either because the jury wants to send a message about some social issue that is larger than the case itself, or because the result dictated by the law is contrary to the jury's sense of justice, morality, or fairness. Now, via Wikipedia, jury nullification, also called jury equity, or a perverse verdict, which is both of those are from the UK, refers to when members of a criminal trial jury believe that a defendant is guilty but choose to acquit the defendant anyway. Reasons may include beliefs that the law itself is unjust, the prosecutor has misapplied the law in the defendant's case, the punishment for breaking the law is too harsh, or general frustrations with the criminal justice system. Some jurors have also refused to convict due to their own prejudices in favor of the defendant. This has been mentioned on the Metaphysic Speaks podcast many years ago, and as then was stated, what many seek is already available to you. And if you do not use it, then it will be taken from you, and you can't complain later. An example of this would be someone arrested for having marijuana. The law states that you can't have, in this example that I'm giving here, the law states that you can't have any of the devil's lettuce, and if you do, you shall be jailed. Well, as a juror, you may agree that the person broke the law on the books, but the problem that you have is that it shouldn't have been a law to begin with. To jail someone, ruin their life, and cause this harm for something that grows naturally out the ground is reprehensible. And as such, you refuse to convict, and even though a law has been broken, this is the root of jury nullification. Okay? How many Americans have complained about the laws, but yet they have had this power, and very few actually use it? In fact, when the Meta Center was out talking to the public about this, most people, regardless of race or gender, wanted nothing to do with it, the jury duty, that is, and did everything they could to get out of their civic duty. And we would mention, of course, that don't you want to, you are a part of community, and this is part of the path to correct certain issues within the community directly. Okay. And many just shrug their shoulders and keep it moving, leading or leaving the burden to the next person. So what is civic duty via legaldictionary.net? The term civic duty refers to a responsibility expected from all members of a society. It follows the principle that the citizens have an obligation to serve their society, and in return, they receive certain rights and protections. An example of civic duty is serving on a jury. As society gradually crumbles around us by choice and guided gently, as it is all pre-planned, to finally enslave the planet, with America being the annoying pebble in the totalitarian shoe. Okay, America is pretty much one of the only places on the planet where you have it's written into the Constitution that you shall bear arms. Okay, so that's a pretty large annoyance to the regimes that want to put America on its knees, and it would have been on its knees a long time ago if that aspect of this culture was not there. So Vulcanization is beginning to take hold. For those who don't know, Vulcanization is the division of a place or country into several small political units, often unfriendly to one another, which makes a country weaker overall, which means it becomes open for potential outside influences or invasion. An example would be in the democratic strongholds: mandatory masking, severe gun laws, limiting a citizen's right to be just that, a citizen, not a citizen who's a potential criminal. This behavior we see in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, in a few other of the democratic strongholds, which is the complete opposite in many southern and western states such as Florida, Texas, or Utah. It doesn't mean those southern states who are Republican doesn't mean they're any better. Okay, it's the right-left paradigm shuffle. Okay, but at least in this regard, they tend to differ dramatically. These differences might as well make all these states entire different countries, all dwelling within their own islands. But this is not limited to imaginary geographical lines. It is also the current balkanization of the spirit and basic human functions, as men don't want to be men, women don't want to be women, putting forth corrupted thought forms, which a fool can see where all leads. So much so, this brings us into our next story for tonight. China has now deemed it a national security threat to show their men as being effeminate on any TV, movies, video games, etc. China's government banned effeminate men on TV and told broadcasters Thursday to promote revolutionary culture, broadening a campaign to tighten control over business and society and enforce official morality. President Xi Jinping has called for a national rejuvenation within tighter Communist Party control of business, education, culture, and religion. Companies and the public are under increasing pressure to align with his vision for a more powerful China and healthier society. The party has reduced children's access to online games and is trying to discourage what it sees as unhealthy attention to celebrities. Broadcasters must resolutely put an end to sissy men and other abnormal aesthetics. You couldn't make this up. How long have we been talking about proper thought forms and people residing within their energy? Okay, and now a country itself, for its longevity, has declared it a threat to the survival of their people. So even on the TV, a TV regular said the aforementioned, he used an insulting slang term for effeminate men, nang pao, or literally girly guns. Okay, that reflects official concern that Chinese pop stars, influenced by the sleek, girlish look of some South Korean and Japanese singers and actors, are failing to encourage China's young men to be masculine enough. China's state-run gaming association recently issued new guidelines banning video games that depict homosexual relations, effeminate males, I should say, and characters that with no clear gender. The association instructs video game developers to stop treating video gaming as a apolitical medium of pure entertainment. Wow, isn't that something? It has been now announced not only by maybe a newscaster or by alternative media, but China, a country, a major country, has said that, in short, video games are not just pure entertainment. Instead, developers should regard video gaming as a new art form and create respectable content accordingly. Video games should aim to promote a correct set of values and an accurate understanding of Chinese history and culture. If regulators can't tell the character's gender immediately, the setting of the characters could be considered problematic and red flags will be raised, the memo states. China's boys are too effeminate and need to channel the ancient spirit of Yang to rediscover their masculinity, government says. When I read this, it made me just say there's no coincidences. Why? Because this is a topic that we're getting into in the March 12th event. Not the whole homosexual or feminine aspect of things, but we're going deeper into the yin and yang and why certain things are happening around us. It's so deep. And so many of you who are coming, who have already purchased your ticket, you have something in store for you, and it's going to make everything make perfect sense and give complete clarity. And you will see why many actions have been taking place by nefarious actors to influence all of our decisions. So he stressed that it was a matter of urgency, citing national security and threats to China's survival and development, the media outlet reported. Experts, meaning those who want to subvert, okay, have criticized the efforts to enforce masculinity. We don't give hand claps to countries overall due to the atrocities many do, but for this very specific action, that hand clap goes to China. The culture of that region, which I'm including many of the other nearby countries such as Japan, have stood for so long culturally intact, while nations across the realm have fallen and succumbed to weirdo dynamics. They, meaning China, may, in countries over there in the Far East, may wax and wane sometimes, allowing some influence with others, and other times cutting it off entirely, because the continuation, the growth of its people, is of the most importance. Only if some with the animalistic mindsets had enough intelligence here, especially within certain communities, to understand that. But hey, This is just Discerning Eye News. Until next time, take care.